In this video, I'm going to show you how to put on new front brake rotors and pads on this Nissan Xterra. It's going to be the same for a Nissan Frontier and Suzuki Equator. I prefer to use these coated brake rotors from PowerStop. They're real good quality rotors. They're coated so they don't rust, and they have really good brake pads for the money. Now it doesn't really matter what side you start on. I'm going to be starting on the driver's side. You're going to want to put a jack under it to get the wheel off the ground. Then go ahead and put a jack stand under there just for added security. And then go ahead and break all your lug nuts loose. And then I'm just going to spin them off with this impact. Then go ahead and remove the tire. I always like to slide it underneath the front end just for even more added security. So now I have the tire, I have the jack, and I have jack stand under there. There's no way that this is going to fall and hurt anybody or hurt the floor. Now we need to remove the caliper. We're going to also have to remove the caliper bracket. Once that's off, we can remove the rotor. We need to take the caliper off first, and I have my ratchet on here. We have one bolt right here. You're going to need a 14mm socket. And then as we come up to the top, we have another one right here. So we're going to go ahead and loosen those up, and then the caliper should slide off. If these start to turn in here, you're going to need an open end wrench to hold these in place while you turn these out. If this doesn't lift off easily, you can take a hammer and just gently tap on your caliper, and it should just come right off. The reason I like to put the tire underneath here is because I'm resting the caliper on top of the tire. I don't want this hanging from this brake hose. This is a pretty heavy caliper, so we'll just set it right on top of the tire, and then we don't have to worry about that. Now we can go back to removing the caliper bracket. Remove the caliper bracket. There's two bolts holding that on, and you're going to need a 19mm socket. There's one right there. And if we come down here, the other one is right here. Let's go ahead and loosen those up, and then the caliper bracket should come right off. These caliper bolts are extremely tight. They're torqued to about 110 foot-pounds or more, depending on who installed it. Doesn't pull off easy. You could take a plastic hammer, just kind of hit the back side of it like this, loosen it up, and pull off the rotor. And for using these coated rotors, you don't have to clean them. They're perfectly dry and clean. If you don't use the coated rotors, you're going to need to use brake clean and clean the rotors the best you can. Now that the rotor's on, we need to install the caliper bracket, which is this right here. And then we're going to go ahead and put those two bolts in the back. Those two bolts in the back holding on this caliper bracket to 110 foot-pounds. And now we need to squeeze in the pistons on this caliper. So because we're putting on a new rotor and new pads, everything is thicker. We need this to slide over the rotor. These pistons here got to be squeezed in. So if you get a large C-clamp like this and use one of the old brake pads or something you have laying around, and then just tighten up with the C-clamp, it's going to push the pistons all the way in. Now if you don't have a large C-clamp, you can always use a very large adjustable plier. But just got to get these squeezed in all the way. Now that the caliper bracket is secured, we need to put the hardware on. So that is going to go on here like this, and that's what's going to hold your brake caliper in. And we'll have another one down here going like that. Now what we need to do is put grease all inside here so that the brake pads can slide in and out. And once you put grease on your hardware, the brake pad should slide right in place. Make sure you don't get any grease on the rotor. I'll put a link in the description below for some brake grease off Amazon. You don't want to just use any grease, you want to use a high temperature brake grease. So here's what it should look like right now. Now before you put your caliper on, you want to put your brake grease around both pistons and around these three surfaces right here. And that's what's going to slide over the brake pad. Now the grease also helps with vibration squeaking. So grease the pistons and along these three sides. Need 2 bolts holding the caliper to the bracket with our 14mm socket, and then we're going to torque those to 25 foot-pounds. All we got left to do is put the tire back on. And if you have an aluminum wheel like this one, you're going to torque to 100 foot-pounds. If you have steel wheels, you're going to torque to about 65 foot-pounds. Quick and easy way to spin these on with a drill or an impact. I don't tighten them up. And then we'll torque them. Your jack stand, and then go ahead and lower the vehicle down slowly. And now we want to take it for a test drive. Weird noise, I know exactly which brake it's coming from. If I go ahead and just do all 4, take it out and have some weird noise, I got 4 choices where the noise can be coming from. But I like doing one brake at a time. I take it for about a 1/2 mile test loop. And if I hear no noise, I'm good to go. But if I do hear something like a squeak or something rattle or a grind, then I know exactly what wheel it is. And it can save you several hours of fixing something that's a problem. Feels great, so we'll go ahead and go to the passenger side. And I just like to kind of look at the brake rotor, make sure everything's working properly. So some of that coating should be rubbed off. I don't want to put my finger on it because it's probably going to be hot, but everything looks good. Sometimes these caliper bracket bolts, they might get put on with an impact wrench at a mechanic shop, and they're extremely tight to take off. So as you can see, I have my 1/2-inch drive ratchet right here. I have a bottle jack right here. Now if you just keep pumping this up, it is going to break that free. All right, so those 2 caliper bracket bolts were extremely tight, and using the jack on my ratchet, broke them loose. It's just kind of an old school trick people use. You don't have a lot of room to get a breaker bar in here, so it's kind of my only option. All right, so I've got this side completely put back together. We can go ahead and reinstall the wheel. And that's all there is to it, guys. This front brake job is complete. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.